Alrighty, so I thought I'd come back and show you guys some of the stuff that I've 3D printed over the past 3 months. And I've owned this printer for just a little over 3 months, but I didn't get filament right away, so I've been printing for about 3 months, maybe a little less. So anyway, some of the stuff that I've printed was actually for this 3D printer itself. They weren't really necessary, but they were just things that I thought needed a little bit of improvement, or that I just wanted to try, like this mount here, or carriage. It's for a new hot end that I put on this thing. It originally had a direct drive, and I don't know if you noticed this, but this is a Bowden tube, and that carries the filament into the hot end and it extrudes it onto this heated bed. Well, I wanted to try a E3D V6. Well, I couldn't afford a real E3D V6, so I had one already that I bought on eBay, and it's a clone, but it works perfectly fine, so I put that on here. And I had to download and print this carriage to actually accept that hot end. There was a lot more to it, but I won't go into that right now. So I printed, I'll see if I can zoom in without taking this camera off of the mount that I have it on. But anyway, I printed this motor mount to replace the original, and the original was just a piece of acrylic. It was kind of flimsy, and it worked okay, but not that great. So I printed this one, and this goes, I'll actually have to take you off of the mount. So this one goes all the way down to this piece of MDF, and it's got some screw holes in it, and I screwed it down to the MDF so this back panel can't flex at all. So when this is moving, there's no flex in the Y-axis basically at all. So I also printed the front piece, and this is I got a brain fart. This is a tensioner, a belt tensioner, and you tighten these screws or loosen these screws depending on whether you want the tension to be more or less. So anyway, and these are all corresponding blocks that also screw the printer to the MDF. Oh, I gotta put this back on so my hot end doesn't clog up. And then there's the extruder. I 3D printed this. This is one of the first things I did, because like I said, I already had this E3D V6 clone, because I bought it on eBay way before I bought the printer. Alrighty, so let's look at some of the stuff that I printed that wasn't for the 3D printer. So I did this little shark guy. I did a few of these. I gave some to friends and some to my kids and stuff, and they're pretty cool. You can clamp them onto stuff. There's a bunch of different versions of this on Thingiverse, so you can get crocodiles and all kinds of different animals. But the quality, I don't know if you can really tell, but the quality is really good. I have this printer dialed in pretty good, so the quality's quite good now. So I printed one of these, and this is a guitar string winder. I just printed this yesterday or the day before. So you put it in your drill chuck, and obviously you turn your drill on low, and you can unwind or wind up your strings on your guitar. If you're doing repairs, this would be pretty handy. This one wouldn't fit my guitar, and it wouldn't fit my drill chuck, so I modified it in Tinkercad, widened this out, made this a little smaller, so now it fits my drill chuck, and it also fits both of my guitars. And I printed a calibration cube. Every time I change filament, I print a new calibration cube just so I can compare it to the other ones that I've printed. And then I printed a couple of these. These are strain reliefs for the motor. My motors don't have removable plugs on the motor end, so it's just wires going directly into the motors. So I figured I better print some strain reliefs to keep those from swinging back and forth and getting busted or something. And this is something that my son modeled, I guess. He wasn't here when he modeled it, so he told me he did, so I'm assuming he actually did. And this is a phone stand, and he said it's also a scraper, so you can use it for scraping your windshield on your car. Probably take a long time because it's kind of small, but it would work in a pinch. So here's another thing that I printed. This is basically probably the biggest print that I've done. It's not the longest print that I've done, but it's the biggest one. And this originally was meant to go down here in place of this stuff, but I put it in there and it didn't work right. It's nice and solid, so that wasn't the problem. I just didn't find that it worked all that good. And excuse the black, I kind of tried to spray paint it, and then I decided not to use it, and I printed all this other stuff instead. So here's a couple of spare carriages. One doesn't work, this black one. It won't fit on this Tronxy. This is originally meant for an A-net, and I printed it off hoping that it would work. And it didn't, it wouldn't fit, so I modified it a bit, and I printed this one off. And this one fits fine, but I decided not to use it, so I printed this one instead. And that's the one I've been using ever since. So now, we'll take a look at some of the stuff I have in this little tote. There's not much in here that's really worthwhile showing, but this thing here is kind of cool looking. It's part of another print that actually failed, but I just said screw it and kept the knob. And then these things are spares for another print that I'll show you in a minute. And then a GoPro mount. This was originally printed for my son's paintball gun, but it wouldn't fit, so I kept it. And a spare nozzle. I have another one similar to it on the printer that I printed. I forgot to show you that, but this is the full circular one, and the one on there right now is a half circle or semicircle. And let's see here. Oh yeah, here's a thing for a GoPro mount, the bolt or whatever. You put a bolt through there. This is, I don't even know what they call that. I guess a handle. And then I modeled this thing. I'm making a bunch of racket, but I modeled this thing for my fridge. I live in an apartment, so you know, the landlord probably should have replaced these clips, but I just didn't think he'd be able to find them because it's an older fridge, so I just modeled one up, and it just clips in the fridge. I have a video somewhere of me putting these in, and they work great, fit perfect. And then I'll show you these, and then I'll try to find, I have more stuff. I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but these are the other calibration cubes. Like I said, I print some every time I change filament just to compare with the last ones, and they all look good. They're all pretty good quality. They're not really useful for anything other than trying to calibrate your printer. Oh yeah, here's another thing I printed. I printed this bearing block, and I did use it on this printer until I got a new one, a new metal one. And then inside there's a 3D printed bushing, that doesn't work very good. If you did a little work to it, you probably could get it working, but as it is, it doesn't work very good. But anyway, hold on for one sec. I'll go over across the room and grab the other thing. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. Oh yeah, I do have one more thing after that, but I'll be right back. Alrighty, sorry about that. I thought I had it right handy, but I didn't. I'm not going to bother editing out, so you'll have a little blank spot in here without me showing you anything. But this is a little vise. I use it for soldering. You can hold things you want to solder in there. I have a helping hand too, so I don't really need it for wires and stuff, but for little circuit boards and things like that, it works great. Took a long time to print. It took about 10 hours, and it's in pieces, so I split the print up into a couple of days, so I didn't have to leave this running for 10 hours straight. Not that I couldn't, but I just didn't want to. I had other things to do, and I didn't want to leave it unattended. And here's the last thing, and I'll have to take you off of the mount to show you this. This is a little 3D printer I'm working on for my son, and it's pretty good. I mean, I had to modify it. I downloaded the files off of Thingiverse, but I had to modify a bunch of them because some of the parts were too thin, or they didn't work properly, like these carriages. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a 3D printed bushing in there, and the original was just solid, so the bushing was built in. I think I have one. Hold on one sec. Yeah, here it is. I can show you what the original looked like. So the bushing is built into it, and I wanted to be able to replace bushings if I had to. I'm actually getting some linear bearings for it, and I might have to remodel them depending on whether they fit properly or not. But anyway, so I 3D printed most of this thing, and I had all of these 6mm rods kicking around, so this 3D printer is not going to cost me a lot of money, and it should work half decent. The only downside to it is it takes these little dinky motors, so when you print something, it's going to take probably quite a lot longer than my big 3D printer will take. But this is a Delta style printer, so it prints a little bit different than this printer. I think these are called FDM printers. I can't remember what they call them. Like I said, I'm pretty new to it, so I don't know all the lingo, but I'm getting better at it. But anyway, this is almost done. I just have a few more parts to get, and like I said, I got to try the linear bearings in these carriages and see if they fit. If they fit, I'll just put them in and pretty much be ready to go, except for wiring up the hot end, which I haven't gotten yet. I ordered it, but I haven't gotten it yet. So wire up the hot end and the power supply, and she should be ready to roll. Anyway, I'm going to go, and I'll talk to you guys later, and I'm going to try to make a few more videos of me 3D printing stuff. So if you want to see something 3D printed, leave a comment in the comment section and tell me what you want me to print. Nothing too big, so I don't want to take a bunch of filament and a whole bunch of time to print something. But if it's reasonably small, it can be medium size or something, but nothing real large, because I only have a certain amount of space on this 3D printer anyway. But anywho, so I'm gonna go, and I'll talk to you guys later, and you have a good one. Like I said, go to Thingiverse or something, look at some of the 3D printed things on there, and leave a comment in the comment section. Maybe leave a link too to the model, and I'll go take a look at it, and maybe I'll print it.